Black screen. A heartbeat. Slow. Steady. Then a knock. A woman's breath catches. A child whispers, "Mom, someone's at the door." They buried him 5 years ago, but on a rain-lit porch in Virginia, someone who sounds like him says, softly, "Claire? It's me." His name is Captain Daniel Reeve, U.S. Army, Recon. The official report says he died during a night raid in Paktika, Afghanistan. A misread map, an ambush in a stone-throated canyon. 2 survivors, 3 KIAs, 1 body never recovered. The flag was folded, the rifle stood in his honor, his wedding ring returned in a Ziploc bag, dulled and gritty with desert dust. They buried an empty casket and called it peace. 5 years later, a satellite phone rings in a secure office. A contractor working medical relief in a remote mountain village claims they've treated an American. Fluent English, old scar patterns, a faded blood-type tattoo that matches Army regs from a decade ago. He knows names he shouldn't know. He speaks about a small white house near the Shenandoah, a dog named Scout, 2 kids who thought fireflies were stars you could catch. He says he's Daniel Reeve. He says he wants to go home. When the plane lands at Dulles, what gets off is not a hero striding into headlines. It's a quiet man who flinches at the intercom beep, folds his hands as if they might float away, and watches his breath like it might disappear. The Army liaison asks simple questions. Daniel answers the simple ones. The hard ones, he lets them hang like fog. They bring him to a small room that smells like coffee and old carpet. There's a table, a lamp, a single chair for the wife who never remarried, except she did. She is Claire, and the 5 years without him were longer than the 10 with him. She learned to fold the sheets alone. She learned to keep the lights low so the house never felt like it was waiting. Eventually, she learned to say "we" again. But the "we" changed shape. Ryan, their old friend, his former squad mate, became what grief sometimes builds, a bridge you cross and never thought you would. Now the door clicks. Daniel walks in. He is thinner. The right side of his hair carries a pale scar where the razor won't grow it back. His eyes search the room in arcs, avoiding the brightest things: her face, the photo of their children, the mirror. "Claire," he says. Her name sits between them like a folded flag. They talk like people who once shared a language and now speak different dialects. He remembers the coffee tin with a dent on the side. She remembers the dent came after he left. He remembers a song that used to calm their daughter's night terrors. She reminds him their son was the one who had the nightmares. He knows too much and not enough, like someone copied the file and half the data corrupted. Then he says, "Where are they?" Claire looks at the liaison, then at her hands. She says, "At home. With Ryan." Home isn't a place so much as a rhythm. The way a door handle sticks and then gives. The way stairs creak on the 3rd step, never the 4th. The way shadows fall across a kitchen table like clockwork. Sun at 8 a.m., honey yellow in June, ash gray in November. Daniel stands on the sidewalk and stares at the house that learned to live without him. The mailbox carries a new last name beneath the old one, Reeve Whitaker, a hyphen that looks like a healed fracture. The wind smells of wet grass and laundry soap. Somewhere a lawnmower drones. He remembers that sound from a different life, a life with grocery lists and soccer cleats at the door, the dog's collar chiming like a soft bell. Ryan opens the door. There are 1,000 things they could say, but the mouth only forms the simplest one. Dan. It lands like a dropped tool. Daniel nods. "Hey." Rye. They do not hug. They are two men standing at the intersection of duty, love, and collateral damage, trying not to make traffic worse. The kids, Owen and Lily, appear behind Ryan like cautious wildlife. Lily is taller. Owen has the shoulders of someone who learned early to carry what's heavy. They look at a man their mother once loved and wonder what it means to love a stranger. "Hi," Daniel says gently. "I brought you something." He reaches into a worn duffel and hands them a tin toy soldier he bartered from a market on the other side of the world, and a rock smooth as glass from a river that does not have a name in English. Gifts from a father who learned too late that the present tense is the only one that matters. Lily takes the stone. Owen does not take the soldier. "Mom said you died," he says. "Not cruel, just true." Daniel nods. "I thought so too." Trauma clinics call it reintegration. That word feels too clean for what happens next. Neighbors watch from behind curtains, inventing answers because rumors are a kind of net, and everyone wants something to hold. Daniel moves into a motel off Route 11 with thin towels and thicker silence. He meets with doctors, chaplains, a man from the VA who speaks softly, and a woman whose job is to ask questions like a locksmith, one click at a time. "What do you remember?" He remembers water, cold, absolute. He remembers a cave that breathed, a roof of limestone that sweated in summer and froze in winter. He remembers a voice that didn't speak English and a hum that didn't belong to any machine. He remembers the smell of boiled tea and diesel, and a hand that fed him when he refused to eat. He remembers being a promise someone made to someone else in the dark. "You will live because I do not." "What about combat?" she asks. He remembers muzzle flashes like camera bulbs, the sound of a bullet finding earth, the way mountains hold echoes like grudges. "What about your unit?" He remembers Ryan pulling him by the drag handle, yelling over a storm of rock and light. He remembers saying go and meaning don't. He remembers a figure at the canyon mouth, then nothing, a curtain, years. There are gaps in the story where truth should be. The doctors call the gaps protective. Daniel calls them a soundproof room. To prove a man is himself, the world asks for proof the man never saved, but bodies remember what files lose. The army runs fingerprints, match, dental, match, DNA, match. Still, certain pages in his record now turn black when anyone tries to scroll. "Restricted," the clerk says. "Higher authority." Claire sits with him in the motel lobby while the ice machine churns and a small TV murmurs about weather. He asks about the kids' schools, their favorite foods, whether the dog still barks at thunderstorms. She answers in the simple present. Owen likes math, Lily paints moons, Scout died in the second winter without him. "Why Ryan?" Daniel asks, then shakes his head. "No, that's not fair." She looks at the carpet. She says, "I was drowning on land." He knew the water. He wants to tell her he understands. He wants to tell her he built rafts in his head every night and named each one after them. Instead, he says, "I'm glad you survived." He means it so much it hurts. The town church hosts a welcome-back potluck because communities wrap casseroles around discomfort. Paper plates, smiles too wide at the edges. A banner says "Welcome Home Daniel" in letters cut by hands that taught kindergarten and folded programs for funerals. Daniel stands near the lemonade bowl, like he's learning to breathe here. Old teammates stop by, handshakes that get stuck halfway between firm and fragile. There was laughter because men in uniform learned early to put a roof over their hurt. Under the roof,
It rains. A woman asks what he misses most about before. He says, noise. Family noise. He means the clink of forks, the squeal of chair legs, the unresolved melody of ordinary life. She nods like she understands. Maybe she does. Daniel stands across the room. Claire stands between them like a shoreline. Wave, sand, wave. Owen hovers near the door. Lily draws a horse on a napkin and shades the eyes too dark. Later, Daniel walks home alone down a street that remembers his footsteps. A porch light flicks on. He does not turn his head. Memory comes back the way storms do, suddenly, along old fault lines.
One night, he wakes at 3:17, heart climbing out of his chest. He tastes dust. He hears a metal gate slam. But he is in Virginia, and the only gates here are white and polite. Still, his hands go to the floor, searching for a rifle that isn't there. He rents time at a range. The steel plates sing when he hits them and say nothing when he misses. The range officer watches a man who was once a language the body spoke fluently. Now the grammar is rusty. The verbs stutter. Still, the syntax returns, one repetition at a time. The old music hums in his bones. In the parking lot, a black SUV idles too long. When he looks, it slips away. He tells himself it was nothing. He tells himself that a lot. The VA therapist is named Dr. Lorraine Hale. She wears hiking boots with her blazers and calls silence a data point. She asks him to write, not about missions or maps, but about small, ordinary things. The first coffee he made alone after coming home, the way the motel bed dips on the left, the sound of a freight train that passes at 2 a.m. and makes the cheap glass hum. Why? He asks. Because the nervous system believes small things first. Big truths arrive later. He writes. The words are uneven, but they arrive. One night he writes a sentence he doesn't expect. I lived because someone chose to let me. He does not know whose hand opened and said go. He does not know if the gratitude he feels belongs to the right ghost. The black SUV returns. This time it doesn't move. Two men step out in suits that do not belong to this town. They introduce themselves as consultants. Their badges have names that dissolve if you stare too long. They ask about a night in Parktika. He shrugs. They ask about a cave with a radio that didn't need power. He looks away. They ask if he remembers the word halcyon. His breath falters. Operation Halcyon, they say, was a survival research directive. Field expedient, deniable, classified beyond rank. The kind of experiment men design when the war is older than their language for it. We're trying to understand how you survived, the taller one says, which is not the same as saying, we're glad you did. Daniel asks a question that has been burning a hole in him since the airport. Am I the only one? They don't answer. Silence, again, as policy. Claire brings the kids to the park on a Sunday afternoon. Daniel sits on a bench far enough to be kind, close enough to be seen. Owen throws a football in tight spirals to a man who is good at catching things before they break. Lily hangs upside down from the jungle gym, hair streaming like a banner. A toddler falls. Daniel rises without thinking, moving faster than the father who loves that child. He kneels, checks for breath, for pupils, for the telltale slackness that means run. The child screams, the good kind, noisy and open-throated. Daniel exhales. Somewhere, behind him, Owen smiles for the first time where Daniel can see it. Later, Lily walks over. She holds the stone he gave her on the first day. It's warm, she says, surprised. Rocks aren't warm.
He says, "They are, if you hold them long enough." She nods, like this is a secret she is strong enough to keep. Ryan asks him to meet. They choose the VFW, where walls have learned to carry more weight than studs are rated for. They drink the kind of beer that aims for neutral. The TV plays a game no one is really watching. "I didn't steal your life," he says anyway. "I know," Daniel says. He means it. "I know. You did what I asked you to do." Ryan looks up. "You asked me?" Daniel closes his eyes. A flash. Rain on stone. His own voice. "If I don't make it, promise me you'll take care of them." The promise ran like a current through 5 winters and built itself into a home. "I think I asked," Daniel says softly. "Back there." Ryan nods once, a man receiving orders he already followed. They sit in the kind of quiet that doesn't need to win. A letter arrives with no return address. Inside is a photocopy of a page that might be a medical log or might be a prayer. It lists dates that match nothing in his memory and vital signs that don't belong to any human who slept well. At the bottom is a name that looks like his and isn't. Subject D. Reeve. Reconstruct. He stares at the parentheses as if they can explain themselves. Reconstructed. The word steps on his chest. What if survival was not escape, but assembly? What if the man who came home is the sum of what was left and what was added? That night he dreams of the cave again. He sees a figure at the mouth, backlit by lightning. The figure steps forward. It is a boy. Not Owen. Smaller. A boy from that valley with eyes that learned war in the wrong century. The boy presses something into Daniel's hand. A ring. Claire's wedding ring. The boy's lips form a word Daniel can't hear. When he wakes, his hand is closed so tight the knuckles are white. News travels like weather. Some days it's gentle. Some days it cracks the sky. The town learns to speak around him without tripping. The pastor shakes his hand and says, "Grace isn't amnesia." The clerk at the grocery store bags his apples like they might bruise from questions. Claire asks him if he wants to attend Lily's art show. He stands at the back. Children move through color like new planets. Lily's piece is a house with 2 shadows on the porch and a third on the steps. The shadows hold hands in a way that doesn't choose. After, Lily walks up. "Do you remember the lullaby?" she asks. He hums a bar. It is wrong. She smiles anyway. "It was close," she says. Merciful as a saint. Dr. Hale says, endings are choices. Closure is a door. You decide if it's front, back, or the one in the kitchen everyone actually uses. Daniel writes a letter he will never send. He writes it to the man who didn't get out of the canyon, the one whose dog tags they found next to his. He thanks him for something unspecific and total. He folds the letter and puts it in the drawer with the Bible and the notepad and the spare key card that never works twice. On the way back, he passes the river. He throws the smooth stones twin into the water and watches the rings widen until they are too wide to see. Rain. A porch light. The same one from the first night, but warmer. He stands at the bottom step. He does not knock. Through the window he sees a boy doing homework, a girl painting a sky that can hold 2 moons, a woman handing a man a cup of tea with 2 spoons, because it's how he likes it. He could leave. He could walk until his breath stops fogging and become a ghost towns have learned to host. Or he could ring the bell and accept the smallest mercy the world offers: proximity. The door opens anyway. Owen stands there, taller now in the doorway that once fit him like a frame. "Hey," Owen says, voice cracking in a way that breaks nothing. "You want to come in?" Daniel swallows. "Only if it's okay," he says. Owen shrugs, like boys do when they are protecting something delicate. Mom says you're family. Family is not a shape you fit. It's a table that adds a chair. Night. The house is quieter than memory, but louder than the motel. Lily has fallen asleep on the couch, paint on her fingers. Ryan stacks plates in the kitchen and doesn't look over his shoulder, because trust is the kind you don't check too often. Claire stands at the doorway like a lighthouse, constant, careful, bright when needed. Daniel sits at the edge of the living room with the dog that isn't Scout, but leans the same way against his leg. He watches the hum of a life that kept going, the most courageous thing a life can do. Sometimes, he says, not sure to whom. Coming home means losing who you were. Claire answers from the doorway, not unkind, or finding who you can be. Owen appears on the stairs, half asleep. He looks at Daniel for a long moment that is shorter than it feels. "Dad," he says, not a declaration, not a test. A question with room for two answers. Daniel doesn't rush the silence. He nods once, grateful and careful. "Yeah," he says softly. "I'm here." Cut to black. The sound of rain. One more breath. Shared.